welcome to today's session on attribution. Some of you might fear it, some of you might loathe it, and some of you might love it. My name's Desiree Toto, and I've been with CJ for about 7.5 years now. When I first started hearing about attribution, it was when I was in client development, and I heard it from my advertisers. I now sit in product, and I hear about attribution as it pertains to our industry as a whole. And it's been really exciting to see the conversation of attribution evolve to where it is today. And I'm extremely excited to be here today to share with you my insights and experience as this conversation has unfolded. And I'm joined on stage today with my co-presenter, Jim Harriman.
Thanks, Desiree. I have been in digital marketing for about 8 years now. 6 of those years I spent with Commission Junction. 2, I worked as an advertiser at a company many of you are familiar with, Lenovo. If you're not familiar with them, then you may be aware of their party tonight, which I'm really looking forward to after today. Attribution throughout my career has been a talking point, but really in the past 2, maybe 3 years, affiliate has been getting more and more involved in that discussion. So like Desiree, I'm very excited to be here to share with you some of the information that we have, but I'm really looking forward to hearing from some of you after our presentation is over and just get a feel for what you all have going on at your respective companies.
So when Jim and I set out to start this session, it was really hard for us to pinpoint where to begin because attribution has so many different layers. And one fact we wanted to get out before we got into the session is this. Not everyone has an attribution problem. And according to eMarketer, only 26% of companies are using attribution modeling today. So what do we want to accomplish today? The following. We want to give you a solid foundation of the subject matter. We want to give you real-world examples and insights to help you get your head wrapped around the subject matter. And remind you, the golden rule of putting customers first still applies. Impressions, they matter, and they matter significantly as it pertains to attribution modeling. And we're going to show you why. And finally, we want to give you insight into how attribution modeling, how affiliate fits into the attribution conversation, and how we need to start changing our view of our industry. Today, we want to empower you with information to have the confidence to sit at the attribution table. Everyone in this room needs to understand you are worth more than you think you are. My experience with attribution reminds me of my kitchen remodel. So I was 5 months pregnant, and I decided I wanted to upgrade my kitchen. I wanted to keep it simple and changed my cabinets and my countertops. So I set out and I found a contractor, and I explained what I wanted to do, my simple remodel. Just change my cabinets and countertops. And the contractor that I was speaking with showed me work, and this is actually a kitchen that he completed, and I started having visions of coming home with my new baby daughter in this beautiful kitchen making organic baby food. So I said, yes, let's get started. So on the first day of construction, I left and went to work, teeming with excitement that when I got home, I was going to see so much progress made on my simple kitchen remodel. And when I got home, I saw exactly what I was expecting to see in my driveway, my old cabinets and my countertops. But I also saw more debris than I was anticipating. And on further inspection, I realized that additional debris was actually my kitchen floor. So I walk into the house and I find this wonderful contractor that I hired, and he explains to me that because I was slightly changing the configuration of my kitchen and the previous owners did not run the floor completely underneath all of the cabinets, I would have been left with this gaping hole. And to do it right, we needed to change out our floors throughout our entire first floor, not just my kitchen. Okay, again, the contractor reassured me that moving forward, everything will go smoothly. And don't worry, I would be able to make organic baby food in my kitchen. So again, leave for work, excited to see the progress that's being made on my kitchen. And I get home, and I can't pull into my garage. Why, you might ask? Well, there's a brand new, ginormous dumpster in front of it, filled to the brim with debris. Again, I walk into my house and find that wonderful contractor. Did I mention to you that the contractor that I hired was my husband? And again, he explains to me the second hurdle we came across in my simple kitchen remodel. So, 5 years later, 2 children, my kitchen still isn't complete. It is truly a work in progress. My walls put back together, I have gleaming hardwood floors, beautiful granite countertops sitting on top of half-finished cabinets. And that's when it hit me. Companies, when they set out to do attribution modeling, they think they're going to be able to keep it simple. They don't realize the complexity that it brings to an organization. And this is really where I feel I needed to take a step back, because as I had more conversations with advertisers about attribution in their organization, I was getting a picture that not everyone truly understood what attribution meant. So I needed a foundation. I needed a definition of what attribution means. And for this, I turned to Avinash. And I'm not sure if anyone in this room is familiar with Avinash, but he writes an amazing blog called Occam's Razor. And he's in the forefront of web analytics. In Avinash's book, Web Analytics 2.0, in his chapter about attribution, he defines it as this. And this really resonated with me, because as a marketer, this is what we try to do on a daily basis. We try to figure out how we're influencing our customer to buy. And if we're not seeing our desired outcome, we try to figure out how to fix it so we can see the results we want.
And my experience as an advertiser was very similar. Like many of you, we wanted to qualify the impact of multiple touch points and exposure points. It seems logical. On the surface, it sounds simple. And why wouldn't we want to do that? But like many things, like Desiree's kitchen experience, remind me not to call your husband to remodel.
He does beautiful work, just not in my house.
Not everything is obviously as simple as it seems. So I do have my own construction story that I didn't want to tell. I'm kind of embarrassed to tell it, but I promised I would. A friend of mine years ago asked if I had ever built a fence. And I know you're thinking, well, what does a fence have to do with attribution? It will make sense, I promise. I told him I had once before. He's like, great, that's one more time than I've built a fence, come on over. So he wanted to put this fence in his backyard. I went over his house one weekend. We scoped out his yard, came up with what we thought was a brilliant plan. He was going to start on one side of his house. I was going to start on the other. And we're going to work around and meet in the middle. Brilliant, right? So day one, believe it or not, went off without a hitch. We dug the holes. We set the posts. We were using the old-fashioned post hole diggers. I was a lot stronger back in the day. If any of you know Matt Burden, I had arms like him. We met in the middle, and we actually finished early. We pulled out some lawn chairs, we cracked open some beers, and we basked in the glory of our accomplishment. The neighbors nor our wives were as impressed as we were, but what can I say? So day two, we were like, hey, day one worked out so well, why don't we do the same thing for day two? We'll start construction of the fence, and we'll meet in the middle. So we meet pretty much in the middle in his backyard. I was 60% of the way done. He was 40% of the way done, but he disputes that to this day. And I look over at his side of the fence, and I'm like, hey, genius, where's the door? He looked over at my side of the fence, and he said, the door's supposed to go on your side. We had fenced ourselves in. Ridiculous. And if you think about it, I'm going to tie this together now, and you'll be like, ah. Our marketing efforts internally at our companies, our digital marketing teams, are set up in a very similar fashion. We were so busy working in our silos, like our marketing teams, that we didn't really understand ultimately what we were responsible for in terms of the strategic objective, in this case, building a fence. And again, at Lenovo, as we kind of dug into these discussions and we realized this, luckily, before we really started doing too much work, we figured it didn't matter what type of attribution methodology we rolled out. If we didn't fundamentally change the way we operated as a team, nothing was going to change. Our strategies would remain undefined, and if they were defined, they'd more than likely remain fragmented at best.
So I've had a lot of conversations with different advertisers as it pertains to attribution modeling, as well as industry experts. And this scenario was actually highlighted in a conversation I had with a large advertiser within our network. And they were doing some interesting attribution modeling, specifically with an affiliate. So I wanted to understand why they were doing that, but also wanted to understand how attribution was being used across their entire organization. So in those conversations, I asked just that. How is attribution being used across your entire company? And they didn't know. So then I asked, with all the changes that you're making in the affiliate program, do you know how it's impacting your other channels? And they didn't know that either. They were so concerned on working on their specific channel and maximizing the return that they didn't understand how all the channels across their organization were working. They were missing a big picture. And more conversations like this led me to see this picture and was fragmented of what truly attribution meant to an organization. So let's clear up any misconceptions. What are the basic types of problems that attribution is solving for? The first one is online to offline. Pretty self-explanatory. You're trying to understand your online efforts and how it's impacting your stores. The second one is multi-screen attribution. And this is more prevalent today because consumers are more comfortable shopping across different devices. And the last one that is so much more closer to what we do is multi-channel attribution, or multiple digital channel attribution. And so this is looking at the different touch points that goes across different digital channels. Those digital channels could be email, could be display, could be affiliate. And the more conversations I had about multi-channel attribution with advertisers, I realized that there was a lot of scrutiny being applied to affiliate. And when I dove into why that scrutiny was there, many times it could be addressed with misconceptions of our industry. But a lot of times it was due to the fact that they couldn't see a complete picture. Their data was flawed. So because affiliate usually sits closer to the conversion, there's always that question of value. Oops, sorry.
So you had mentioned earlier that 26% of advertisers have some form of attribution methodology in place today. And as technologies improve and we find efficiencies, this number is going to increase. But what does that mean for affiliate? So let's slice into that number a little bit more. Of the 26% of advertisers that have a methodology in place for attribution, only 50% of them include affiliate into that mix, just 50%. And of that number, of the 50%, almost none of them track affiliate the same way they track other digital marketing channels. They don't include impressions in that data. So right off the bat, your whole attribution picture is flawed, and you're left with gaps in the data. When you have gaps in that data, you have to fill those gaps with assumptions. And really, it brings you right back to square one. If you're making assumptions off of essentially bad data, the attribution process that you have in place, in many cases, can be rendered useless.
So we talked about the different types of problems attribution can solve for, and we talked about the flaws in the data. But where does the customer fit into all of this? Because customer segmentation and understanding how your different customers interact with your digital marketing channels is key in attribution modeling. And this came up at a recent analytics conference where the presenter was talking about a client of theirs, and they were taking a very macro view of attribution modeling, where they wanted to look at the number of clicks or number of touch points prior to conversion. And the presenter asked, well, who's your target customer, and what do they buy, and how do they interact with your digital channels? And the client didn't know this. So they went back and they realized that their target customer is anyone that buys a basket size of $500 or greater. And so using this information and applying it to their attribution modeling, they realized that their previous perception of what they were going to do, that more macro level, where they were going to make investments in budgets, change campaigns, and even assign internal credit, was completely wrong. Had they gone with that modeling and not done that exercise, they would have completely ignored the higher value consumer. So segmentation of your customers are key as it pertains to attribution modeling. You need to understand how your consumer is interacting across all of your digital channels. Without seeing that larger picture, how are you going to understand your impact? So the next question that comes up in attribution modeling is the value as it pertains. Because we sit closer to the conversion, a lot of times we can be seen as we would have gotten that sale anyways. And this conversation has been going on in our industry over time. In the past, the conversation pertained to search. Today, it could be around coupon and deal and loyalty. But we are better positioned today to answer these questions because of the vast amount of data that we have at our fingertips across all of ValueClick. So we wanted to get to that point and get and answer those questions. So let's share with you some of the information that we were able to find. So the first case study that we looked at was we wanted to look at the assumption that coupon and deals come in at the last second and take that credit. And so in this case study, we looked at all last-in digital channels, not just with an affiliate, but we also looked at search, display, email. And what we found was that 53%, that their conversion rate was 53% less than the other last-in digital channels. 53% less. And this sentiment was reiterated in a recent white paper published by a content network, where they were only seeing that they were losing last click reward to coupon and deal 11% of the time. So we've also been talking a lot about the customer and the type of customer that shops through affiliate. So we wanted to look at this. We wanted to look at the type of customer that buys through coupon and deals and compare them to a non-affiliate buyer. And coupon and deal customers spend 20% more than non-affiliate buyers. 20% more. They buy more. The next question, incrementality. When we're talking about attribution and affiliate, incrementality comes into the conversation majority of the time. And we, again, wanted to look at incremental value as it pertains to affiliate. And so we did a study across a 12-month period where we looked at new and existing customers that we brought to our advertisers. And affiliate drove 37%. And we compared that to display, which has a hefty percentage point of 30. But we were still 7 percentage points higher in driving new to file. 7 percentage points higher. So we wanted to dive into that information even further and look at the verticals. Coupon and deal and loyalty drove 36% new to file. 36%. The clear standout was affiliate content at 51%. A new KPI that you're going to start hearing more of is lifetime value. And this is, again, looking at a 12-month period, buying frequency, and how much a customer buys. And we were able to segment this and look at affiliate customers versus non-affiliate customers. And we found that affiliate customers spend 50% more than non-affiliate, with a buying frequency of 50% higher. We drive 50% higher lifetime value. And there's been a lot of buzz out in the industry about fractionalizing transactions across one affiliate. And we've been engaging these conversations because we want to understand from our advertisers why, and build or provide the right solution for them to answer their problems. We want to understand their problem statement. So in one scenario, there was an advertiser that wanted to do just this. And we had conversations with them, and we asked them two simple questions. One, we wanted to understand the overlap with other channels. And two, we wanted to understand the number of affiliates in the purchase path. And they didn't know this, so they went back to their analytics team, and what they found out was astonishing. Less than 1% of their business, their entire business, not just affiliate, would have been impacted by this type of modeling, less than 1%. So the affiliate manager decided to forego this and instead invested that time, effort, and budget into optimizing the affiliate program. And that affiliate manager ended up looking like a hero because they saved their company time and effort on such a small portion of their business. So we also wanted to look at our network and look at what is going on in our click path analysis within our network. And in one scenario, for retail, the retail category, we looked at the loyalty vertical. And less than 1% of those transactions had another affiliate in the purchase path, less than 1%. That shows that the customer is more loyal to those sites than they are to the brands they're buying for. If you are not on those sites, they will go to your competitor. The value is clear, and as affiliate ambassadors, we need to help show that we are a key component to driving customer value.
So how do we do that? How do we show that the affiliate channel adds value and deserves a seat at the table? I was fortunate to work for a company that understood the value and the potential of affiliate, but like many of you, I had to work to show that value. And one of the things that I did was called a campaign stacking sequence analysis. Try to say that 5 times fast. I can't even say it once. What it is it's a way to view the customer's path to conversion. So I'll give you an example. You might see a customer come through SEM, then click on a display, or click through a display program, maybe email, and then ultimately convert. Any variation thereof of a digital marketing program, throw an affiliate and maybe some social programs in there. And what I did is I took a sample of data over a quarter, and I did this for multiple quarters, and I pulled in our analytics team to help out with the analysis on this, because it's a lot of data. And what I found was upwards of 30% of the orders of the revenue associated with other digital marketing channels, to include direct loads or direct visit to the site, either started in the affiliate channel or had affiliate in the path to conversion, up to 30%. So right there, that shows that there's a lot of engagement at all points in the journey. One of the other things it did for me is that it helped me show that consumers were behaving in a way and interacting with affiliate in a way that other people just assumed didn't exist. And it helped give me that seat at the table in terms of attribution.
So I had an interesting conversation with an advertiser, and they were doing some unique reporting. Internally, they had all of their reports off of First Click, but they still had all their channel partners report off of Last Click. And then they would take that data, analyze it, and look at the variances. And you know what they found in affiliate? 70% of those Last Click transactions match back to their First Click. That shows that the customer started and ended with affiliate.
So in both examples, we're looking at clicks as the actions. But what if we take a step back and we look at more exposure points? As an industry, we need to rethink what we look at in terms of KPIs and how we measure success. We need to consider using KPIs that other digital marketing channels can't operate without. KPIs that in the past have been held close to our chests due to data ownership concerns or even technology constraints. And I'm talking about the big scary word, impressions and view-throughs. Impressions for affiliate, when it comes to attribution, is the missing link. Without that data, we won't be able to compare apples to apples, and we'll never have a proportional representation when it comes in, or in terms of analyzing the data and really showcasing the value and allocating budget, so on and so forth.
So Jim, impressions, that's a great term, because as marketers and brands, that's what you do every single time your brand is in front of your customer. You're making an impression. So I'm not sure if anyone saw this recent statistic. 63% of consumers need to see or hear a company's claim 3 to 5 times. 3 to 5 times. Impressions, they matter.
And consider how affiliate is rolled up to C-level executives or managing directors. It's not rolled up at a very granular level or at a publisher level. It's rolled up as a channel. Now, if you're not sure whether or not impressions is a valuable KPI for affiliate, consider this. We took a look at our network last year for 2012. We wanted to see how many impressions the CJ network served. Now, keep in mind, most affiliates in our network do not use an impression tag. Even so, we found that CJ served 50 billion, with a B, impressions through our network. 50 billion. We pulled in our analysts, and they did what analysts do best, or at least better than I do, they analyze. And we wanted to find out what that number would look like if most publishers in our network used an impression tag. And the number was staggering. It was 250 to 300 billion impressions that we're leaving on the table. And again, many programs out there use this as the first exposure point, and they assign a value to it. We don't. We're not including that, and because of that, both publishers and advertisers are selling themselves short.
So all of the channels are bringing a complete picture as it pertains to attribution modeling. Why are we making it so difficult to show our influence? And this was actually highlighted in a recent Harvard Business Review. They were looking at assists prior to a conversion. And the amazing thing about this article was that they actually broke out affiliate. We weren't lumped in with another online channel. They broke us out. Where we fell short was the fact that when they were measuring assists, all other channels were being measured off of impressions. Affiliate was being measured off of clicks. Right there in an industry article, we were being devalued. Impressions to clicks, there's no comparison.
So let's look at a couple of real-world examples to help paint a better picture of what it is that we're talking about. So it's time for more fun stories. My brother and I are avid scuba divers. My brother's a little bit more avid than I am. I'm relatively new to the scuba diving world. I've been doing it for a couple of years. He invited me up earlier this year to dive for lobsters. I agreed to it. I went up to Massachusetts where he lives. I was a little skeptical about this. I don't know if anyone's scuba dived in Massachusetts, but the water's pretty cold. So we go up there and we dive. And one thing that I learned from this experience is I love lobster. I love them on my plate. I love them in the pot. But I'm terrified of them in their domain. And there's nothing worse than seeing two grown men underwater, unable to communicate verbally, fighting over who's going to reach their hand in a lobster hole. That's like just looking at you like, come and get me. So anyway, we're wrestling for a lobster. My brother's strap on his mask breaks, and I may or may not have inadvertently knocked it off his face. We couldn't find it, so I did what a good brother would do, and I saved his life. I brought him back up to the surface. He claims I almost killed him, but I saved his life. And we decided to call it a day at that point. So we did what any good fisherman would do in a situation like that. We swung by the grocery store, we picked up some lobsters, we threw them in our cooler, and we told our family that we caught about a half dozen 2-pound lobsters. We're the best fishermen on the face of the planet. So to the point of the story, my brother used the excuse of his strap breaking to buy a new mask. And after dinner, he turns on the computer, and I'm standing over his shoulder with a cup of coffee, and he pulls up an affiliate site. He knows nothing about affiliate marketing. He has no idea what I do for a living. So this surprised me, and I was like, oh, this is a great example to use my brother as a guinea pig once again. I asked him about the site. He's like, yeah, I shop through here a lot. He found a mask on the site that was within budget, a brand that he was familiar with. He then opened a couple of tabs, and he searched for this particular mask. He found the advertiser site, but he also found a couple of other sites that sold it. He clicked through those links, did some research, looked at images, tech specs, customer reviews, what have you, what we all probably do. Then he went back to that the publisher site and clicked through the link to purchase the product. At that point in time, the publisher had the best overall value. And while he was going through the checkout process, he signed up for a newsletter. He had never been to this site before. So when he did that, I was like, this is unbelievable. This is a perfect storm of guinea piggery, or whatever you want to call it. So from an advertiser's perspective, if I was the marketing manager for scubabrandco.com, fictitious company, I would look at this behavior and I would say, this is another example of affiliates swooping in and taking credit for a sale that SEM or SEO drove. But in reality, we know that's not what happened. Affiliates started with the sale. Consider what else happened here, the newsletter sign up. In the future, if my brother receives newsletters from this advertiser but continues to shop through affiliate, is this an example of affiliate taking credit for sales that belong to an email campaign, or are we just mistaking that for consumer behavior? So to be fair, we wanted to take a look at a direct visit. And if you were at Carrie's presentation this morning, she had mentioned shopping cart abandonment. So I want to look a little bit more into that example and give you some additional figures here. We took a sample size of 1.5 million orders that originated from customers who initially abandoned their shopping cart. We did this with a partner of ours that has an affiliate program, but also has programs across value click brands in general. So we had a really good picture of this digital marketing landscape. Of the 1.5 million orders, we assumed that coupon and deal would see a spike in conversion rate, but that's not what we saw at all. Only 4% of the orders actually converted through coupon and deal. Most of the orders converted through other digital marketing programs or direct load. So we dug into this a little bit more, and we found this is really a perfect example of consumer behavior. Customers that visit your site directly, even though they may leave and look for offers and deals and maybe even more information before they buy, more often than not, go back to your site as a direct visit, the same way that they went there initially. Same thing with affiliate and other digital marketing channels. If they go to your site, if they visit your site, and in this example, through another digital marketing program, chances are they're going to reach you again if they abandon that cart through the same or another digital marketing program.
So the talk about conversion credit reminds me of something I sometimes come home to after work. And does anyone in here have kids? Okay, you'll probably get where I'm going with this. So I come home and I see my two beautiful children. That's my daughter, Tegan, and my son, Connor, and I'm standing right in front of them, so I'll move over so you can see how pretty they are.
Related.
Sorry, I love my kids. So I come home and I check in with my kids, and they're usually playing well in our family room. And then, again, as a parent, I try to have a conversation with my husband and see about all the beautiful kitchens he's completed for other paying customers. He's like, you have to make sure that you tell them that I complete my jobs for paying customers. So he does. So we're trying to have a conversation, and then all of a sudden it happens. You hear the volume rise in our family room. And I go into the room to see what's going on. And my two beautiful children are there arguing over one toy. And as a mother, I look on with frustration, and I scream, "Why can't you learn to play together?" And they look at me like this is the first time they've ever heard this concept. But it's not, because I say it all the time. So, as a parent, it's my job to help guide them to play with that toy together. And usually, the end result is a new game. But because they're playing together, they're happier.
Reminds me of my last job, but not in a bad way. It's very similar, again, to how we're structured as marketing managers. If we're going to roll out an attribution methodology, we need to reinvent the wheel. We have to invent a new game so we can all play together. My former marketing manager, the individual that was taking the lead on rolling out an attribution solution, my former employer, came up with a process that I thought was a very solid process, and I think you all can take this back with you, regardless of the stage you're at in terms of any type of attribution. The first thing that she did was she realized we needed, again, a unified approach. So she went as high up the chain as she could. Again, a very large company, so to many people, to include myself, an intimidating thing to do. Went as high up the chain as she could get and secured an executive sponsor. somebody that liked the idea of attribution methodology, that had the ability to facilitate change, and somebody that could ensure the ball continued to move forward. She then pulled in all of the marketing managers, to include myself, to identify what our synergies were, what we had in terms of roadblocks, and ultimately what it was we were all trying to measure and what our strategic objective was. We then sat down and invented a new game, essentially, one that worked for us. And this is going to be different with every advertiser and every business model. She then shared this information with the executive sponsor, who immediately saw the potential, and to make a long story short, made things happen, set the cornerstone for a very solid attribution process that wouldn't fence us in, that would allow us to work together and to benefit from all the changes and the investments that we were making in terms of attribution.
It's amazing to hear that not all advertisers are thinking this way. They're not looking at attribution from a unified approach. More and more often, you hear from industry experts that the biggest hurdle in an organization is getting that unified approach, that they don't want, there's still that contention across all the different digital channels where they want ownership. But with all that focus on who gets credit, you're being distracted from where the real focus needs to be, on your customer. The customer needs to be the focal point as it pertains to attribution modeling. You need to understand how, as a marketing organization, all of your marketing efforts are influencing the consumer to buy. Because without this approach, how are you going to understand how removing one element from one channel impacts another? So to be successful and as digital marketing owners, we all want the same thing. We want to understand how we can influence the consumer to buy. To be successful, we need to answer this. How can we use attribution to optimize our customer segments? Without this, we're not going to know. And to be successful with attribution modeling, you need to be able to answer this. Because segmentation of your customers are key, understanding the different touch points, impressions, clicks, and how it interacts with other channels. And finally, affiliate. We do not sit at the conversion. We have influence beyond. We have value as it pertains to affiliate. We have a 50% higher lifetime value. On average, we drive 37% new to file. And our conversion rate is 35% higher. So the value is clear. I hope we've given you the information to empower you to have conversations internally about attribution, as well as a good framework to work from, that being your customers.
So we shared a lot of information with you. And if you take away nothing else from this presentation, we hope you take away these three things. Customers often start and finish with affiliate. Impressions matter. 250 to 300 billion impressions just left on the table. Again, we're selling ourselves short by not incorporating this as one of our KPIs for future growth and development as attribution becomes more and more prevalent in our space. And my personal favorite, don't forget the customer. We shouldn't be trying to change consumer behavior with our marketing efforts. We should be trying to entice it. So thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your day to listen to us talk. We'd love to turn the spotlight on all of you and hear any questions, comments you have, and again, maybe anything that you have going on internally as it relates. And yes, we have one right here. I think we got a mic for you.
My name is Chris Stroud. Thank you. It seems like your statistics will allow you to determine first click versus last click as it's going through, and the attribution conversation is obviously an active one. One of the questions I'd ask is if you guys ever plan on allowing the ability to compensate higher for those affiliates who drove the first click on an individual transaction basis rather than the last click, so that the motivations are appropriately aligned.
So just to repeat the question so everyone can hear it is, he's asking about whether or not we are going to be able to give credit or commission off of first click versus last click. Higher commission, thank you. So we are looking at that. We are talking to different advertisers to see if there is a need. There are some advertisers that are interested in that type of modeling, and there's other advertisers that are interested in different types of modeling. But we are going through the due diligence of trying to understand that and get a gauge on what our network needs. So that's why we're going to continue to have conversations. Anyone else? Really?
One question.
Come on! Just kidding.
You got another question, Chris? No?
Systems?
I want to touch that one with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So he's asking if are there any systems that we would recommend? So the types of vendors or modeling? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in general, there's a lot of good companies out there that provide attribution technology. I wouldn't say that we personally or CJ recommends one over the other. It's really going to come down to the organization. In my experience when we were going through an RFP process, we found pros and cons with everyone. It really just came down to who we felt was the best fit, and in terms of strengths and weaknesses, which ones played to our needs better. So, not really a good answer because there's no here you go with this guy, but.
And I think it goes back to every company is different and the way that you're structured is different. So you need to be able to find the right vendor that will be able to integrate into your processes. Yep. Scott?
How'd you get out of the fence?
We jumped it.
It's a great story, right? I know.
It's not completed.
I know.
That's where
I'm
the
sorry,
kids stay now. It's a kennel.
Yep. I think we have a question over in the back. My husband did promise me he'll get it done, especially after this. I think I've berated him enough.
So, yeah, quick question. So I'm using a vendor, to track all my impressions and clicks. So when am I going to be able to track impressions, from CJ? Because you're talking about 50 billion that are being tracked, but 250
Correct.
billion total. So I'm missing a few right now. So I'm just wondering,
Right. And I'm assuming you're an advertiser, correct?
I am an advertiser.
Correct. So he's asking, when are we going to be able to track impressions? To summarize it, we can track impressions today. Right now, there's a little snippet of code that is attached to all of our links that allows us to track the impressions. Many times, that little bit of code gets removed when publishers bring that onto their site, so then we cannot track it. So we are right now asking to keep that code in place so we can see the impressions within our network. And so this is the beginning of the conversation as it pertains to impression tracking within the network. Yep, Rachel?
Adding on to that, would you have an ability to utilize kind of the third-party impression trackers like DoubleClick and being able to integrate that across all the other channels that maybe like a display channel uses DoubleClick to see view-throughs and things like that, in addition to the impressions that are just
Seeing an
tracked through
affiliate?
the affiliate network?
I mean, we are looking at how we can do that across all of ValueClick. So with third parties, I think that's something we would need to talk more about, and we can most certainly start looking at that. We know the attribution conversation is evolving, so we want to make sure that within Commission Junction, while we do not want to be an an attribution provider, we want to be able to enhance and work with you if you are putting together attribution modeling. So we are having multiple conversations with companies like Odometry, Mediaplex to understand how it's being used across their companies and figuring out how we can find business synergies so we can all work collectively. You can take this one.
Thanks, Tess.
No problem, no problem.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. It was very useful. So one of the things that we've been talking about internally, I'm an advertiser, and one of the things that we've been talking about internally is the possibility of using attribution modeling to get to a truer and more accurate return on ad spend. Have you tried something like that and met with any success to get to a truer return on ad spend using attribution modeling?
Yeah, and I'm assuming that you're looking at doing this just across all
Yes.
digital marketing channels.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and that's where the short answer is yes. So attribution methodologies are one of the primary elements of them, or to do just that. Where you start getting into some gray water is when you track and compare and essentially rank, for lack of a better term, different programs in a different way. So you might look at impressions for display and bump that up against clicks for affiliate, not necessarily ever seeing when did the customer see the affiliate banner before they saw the display banner, so where does the investment need to be made there? So short answer to that is yes, but right now for affiliate, it's very limited. There are a lot of assumptions that need to be made in order to determine what ultimately your best return on ad spend is going to be.
Good job, Jim.
Thank you, Desiree.
You're welcome. Thank you.